Holy balls, we're back with another episode of World 101 Podcast, where this week we're once again asking the all-important question, what else can we fuck up today? Quick tease for the third half of the show before we get into all the good meaty stuff. This week we've got a big, beefy show because in the third half, after the break, we are joined by the awesome developers of Return to Grace for a fantastic interview. Stay tuned for that. Stick around. You're not going to want to miss it. If you have not already, subscribe, share. You should absolutely do these things. And now you can once again share because we did fix the Google Play or the YouTube Music share stuff in the move over from Google Podcasts. That's all fixed. The share button works now. So make sure you share with your friends. If you haven't already, click the link in the show notes, jump into the Discord, and let's talk about this shit. Like anything that we're talking about on the show or more, jump in the Discord. Let's fucking talk about it. Get there. Link in the show notes. Quick shout out to our awesome sponsor, Imaginary Authors, helping you up your scent game with fragrances for guys, gals, and non-binary pals. More about them just before the break. All that out of the way. I am, as always, your host, Raul to the Wall. Joining me this week are my compatriots, Michael Brown. Your camera's not on, and we are an audio podcast. So I see we are continuing a trend. I know you're there. Now you're just being difficult, which shouldn't surprise me at this point anyways. So, and also making a special return appearance, Eddie Magic Head V.
Hello, everybody. I have made a surprising return once again. And as always, hot takes, hot trouble.
Eddie's here just so that we can all point at the same person and tell him he's wrong.
Even though even though I'm right and I give my point of view about a lot of things, but I'm so happy to be here. I have a feeling that people who listen to the show and hear my takes, I bet you they yell at the podcast and just be ready to be like, oh, how wrong I am, but not acknowledge the fact that you wouldn't say anything if you didn't hear my opinion. I always feel like that on any podcast sometimes that I feel like people don't say anything until I say so. Like there could be a conversation about something and not many people will react. I get into that conversation and say something and all these opinions drop.
All right. So if anybody thinks that Eddie is wrong about anything today, jump in the Discord and tell us.
Yes. Yes.
We want documented proof. We're just going to start going back through old episodes and curating the definitive list of shit Eddie's wrong about.
Dude, I literally feel like people would
That's its
just
own full-time job for at least a year.
I feel like that, dude, that's 2.5 years because that's so much anxiety about all the hot takes that I have given. Good googly moogly folks would be like, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, holy hell. All right. Let's jump to, oh my God, video games. Michael, let's start with you. I know a little bit about what you've been playing because you and I chatted not terribly long ago. What you been spinning there, Holmes?
I just finished up with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and
Nice.
honestly, I'm not happy with it. Like,
You haven't sounded like you've been happy with it since the mini game started.
yeah, like that's the biggest thing. Is it is literally just there's way too many mini games. There's way too many minor inconveniences. Like the movement is very clunky. They try to add in a bunch of little things that sort of make it feel like it wants to be Breath of the Wild, but at the same time, like there's basically a parkour button, but it's also clunky. Like so many fucking mini games, and each one has its own little nuances and things like that, and it got old very quickly. like to the point to where I would put it down because I don't want to have to try to play this next mini game. Like I just wanted to see the damn story. That's it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like then I liked Remake a lot because I've never played the original Final Fantasy VII. Like I played through up to a certain point, and then like I would get distracted or lose interest or whatever. I've played the Midgar scene, you know, up to the point to where you can leave Midgar 2 or 3 times and just never move past that. And that wasn't the entirety of Remake. The ending of Remake is you getting out of Midgar. Rebirth, like, I know the basic story beats of the story, so I know that Remake deviated from those story beats, and it's a part of the story that it's different from the original story. Like Aerith and Sephiroth are both aware that something is wrong, something is different. And it seemed like all throughout Rebirth, they were setting up something really cool. And it feels like very much they just bitched out at the end and went the safe route. And it was kind of disappointing. Like, I'm obviously still going to play the 3rd installment when it comes out, just because I want to see the ending now. But as I said, I wasn't really happy with it, and like there's a lot of little things that just kind of irked me. Like, and I know it's part of the story in that like Red 13 at one point, Red 13 has shown that he's been putting on a front this whole time, and he's actually just a kid basically. And in the original, from what I understand, you kind of get it with the text, but since this is, you know, obviously voice acting and things like that, there is a massive difference between when he's faking it and when he's being himself. And it was very jarring. And then Cat Sith, like, was basically David Tennant. Like, I don't know if he was always supposed to be Scottish, but he was fucking Scottish. I don't know. Like, overall, as I said, it's not, I mean, it's still a good game. It's just, there was a lot of impediments in the way of it being, you know, of getting to the ending. And it's a game I'll probably never go back to.
Aw.
Hmm.
Do you regret your time with it?
For the record, I put 113 hours into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
How many of those hours do you want back?
A decent chunk. Like, I mean, as I said, it was still, the story was decent. The story was still worth it. But
Let me ask this.
Yeah.
Do you want more or less than half of those hours back?
Probably less than, maybe 25% of it.
Okay.
Because, like, as I said, just the infinite fucking mini games, like, and then like this game is the one that also introduces the gold saucer, which is like a giant casino type joint. So everything there is a fucking mini game. Like on top of the mini games for everything else you had to do in the story to get up to this point. Then they're like in this place where like, here, go get these tickets by playing mini games. It's like, you sons of bitches.
Which is faithful to the original Final Fantasy VII because there are mini games.
I'm aware, but it seemed excessive. Like like every single area you go to. First of all, there's the Ubisoft Tower thing in every area you go to. You know, there's 2 or 3 towers you have to find to unlock other things, and then in addition to that, you get a different chocobo to ride around, basically your horse, in each area. But the first mini game you get to do is fucking find the damn thing, and then once you find it, there's a mini game to catch it. And of course, they get increasingly more difficult. And then there's, you know, chocobo races and obstacle courses, and like there's a fucking picking mushroom mini game at one point, and it's ludicrous. There's too much, like things that. Go ahead.
You mentioned something and it spurred a thought. Do the mini games potentially feel too excessive here? Because instead of being a slice of the full story of Final Fantasy VII, the mini games here feel disproportionately too consuming because what you've just played is only a slice of the full story of Final Fantasy VII.
It's not even a slice, though. It's a sliver. Like, there was, like, at one point, you're sent out to pick flowers for this girl to help her make a fucking wreath. And the mini game is you're given a picture of how the wreath is supposed to look, and then you have to go from a bunch of different types of flowers and pick the specific colors she wants. And it was unnecessary.
Which is new in the game because that wasn't in the original Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, as I said, they extrapolated on a lot of stuff from the original, from what I understand. But it's just there's so much, like a lot of the mini games almost feel like padding, like to stretch out the gameplay, and it's just most of them weren't fun, And there were several that weren't really explained very well. So you kind of had to figure it out through trial and error. But in order to actually succeed past it, you have to at least get a silver medal in it, or the second place or whatever. And so the amount of times I had to redo a mini game because I was figuring out as I go how it worked, it wasn't good.
Poor execution on all fronts.
Yeah. And then, there's also a lot of little things, like there's a point in the corral area where, your character has already been shown you can swim. You can actually swim across, great distances, okay? But in the corral area, there's these little fucking, stream-looking things that have sticks in them that you just apparently can't push out of the way. Even though it lets you swim up to the sticks and then tells you can't go any further without the buggy that you get later, which is story-based. And as I said, that kind of stuff happens a lot. Artificially put in front of you invisible walls. You have to progress to this point in order to keep going from here.
Okay.
And there's as I said, it's a good game, but there's a lot of things that weren't executed very well.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
It could have been tightened up.
Very much. It could have been, as I said, Remake was really well done. I enjoyed Remake immensely. This one seemed like they kind of took everything that was Remake and just kind of spread it out over more areas, and they're like, well, we got to fill up these extra spaces, so they're like, mini games.
Mm-hmm.
And it got old very fast.
Yeah, that's become an ever ballooning problem of padding games for playtime and just wasting your time instead of tightening it up and making the experience better, because God forbid we put something out that's less than 80 hours.
Well, I know the Gold Saucer in the original Final Fantasy VII, it played a bigger part for the story and progression, to progress and everything. So I guess with Remake, I'm assuming that they still have those same games, but
generally, the Gold Saucer is a major part of the story. You're there for quite a while. There's a lot of things that are introduced at this point. But at the same, there's an actual date between you. There's a mechanic in the game that you enhance your relationships with each of the other characters, And depending on who your highest relationship is, you end up kind of going on a pseudo date with that person.
Yeah.
And like I know there was kind of a mechanic like that in the original version, but this one really opened that up, like, and kind of tells you when you do something good with certain characters and stuff like that.
So I
also they added in a fucking card game that was completely unnecessary.
Oh yeah. See, a lot of stuff that they added game wise, I don't think they were in the original Final Fantasy. I know a lot of that was just to get like the special chocobo and materia and stuff like that. I don't think it had any kind of like relationship, like persona kind of stuff in it.
It did, but it was very downplayed, and it was not actually advertised in any way.
Okay.
I actually looked this up because I was curious. But this one, like, as I said, there's a very ongoing thing throughout most of the game as to whether Cloud is trying to woo Aerith or Tifa.
Yeah.
The date thing that I ended up doing, I ended up actually doing that with Red 13. And like as I said, it's an interesting mechanic, but I don't think it was fleshed out all the way. And they don't let you in on the subtle nuances of how it works.
Okay.
Then there was a lot of returning mechanics from the first one that I completely forgot how they worked, and this game kind of looks at it from the perspective that you've already played the first one, so you know how those work. So they didn't really explain them. Like, every different weapon you have has its own special move, like its ATB ability. And once you've used it enough, suddenly it becomes automatic that you can use it with any weapon instead of just a specific one. I completely forgot about that until 90 hours into the game. So then I ended up having to go and re-equip all the old weapons, get into artificial fights, just to unlock all that shit again. Yeah, as I said, just a lot of it came off as more tedious than I wanted it to. And I guess maybe there's a possibility that I just wasn't in the right headspace for it, whereas somehow I was with the first one. But I don't really think that's the case. Like, as I said, I thoroughly enjoyed the first one. I thoroughly enjoyed everything it set up. Like, minor spoilers is Zack is still alive at this point. Like, and there's actually a few short little snippets where you play as Zack. Like, as I said, just they're obviously kind of setting up something, but like there was a feeling throughout the entirety of this game that they made it seem like one of two different things was going to happen. That either Aerith was going to completely survive the entire thing, because everybody knows that's the main story beat of this game, is that Aerith is killed at one point, or that Cloud was going to be the one to kill her instead of Sephiroth. It very much felt like they were setting up to be one of these two things, and in the end, they bitched out completely, and she dies the same way she always fucking dies. And it felt like a cop-out.
Well, I heard that there's I guess there's one part that Cloud defects Sephiroth's sword.
It happens. Basically, this game, as opposed to just being the linear story of what's going on, the new story arc is that it's a multiverse, and Sephiroth somehow is able to see every multiverse simultaneously. So, you actually do deflect his sword, but he literally just warps the multiverse to where she still dies, like the same way. And it just, that's what I mean. It felt like such a fucking cop-out.
because normally the spiritual ghosts, uh, they're supposed to keep things as the same. Everything is
Oh, they
supposed to
work
follow.
for him now. Yeah, the Whispers, they fucking work for Sephiroth now.
Okay, and I'm just saying this, everybody, to give you a heads up. I haven't started. I don't have a PS5, so I haven't played Rebirth. But I listened to a podcast and I was hearing about that, and I knew about something was going to happen to Eric because I beat the original Final Fantasy VII. Uh, but I didn't know they were going in that route. That's interesting.
I don't know. Like as I said, it's still there's still like another thing is in the original version, like Yuffie and Vincent were optional characters that you could miss, and they completely removed that. Like they are absolutely characters that you cannot miss. However, Vincent you don't meet till near the end of the game, and he is like him and Sid both play similarly to how Red did uh, in the remake. You don't actually get to take control of them. They're just kind of there.
Yeah, because in original Final Fantasy VII, you don't. Sid is not even in your party. I don't think. I think he just flies the plane.
I don't, and no, because Sid is actually in your party in the original version.
I thought he wasn't.
No, he used. I remember he uses a spear. I don't know why. As I said, I never played that far in the game, but I know for a fact he is a main character.
Interesting. I have Final Fantasy VII on my Xbox. I've been playing it, but I haven't finished it yet. I wanted to do like a replay of it because I knew that it was gonna be a while uh before I get to play Rebirth.
Mm.
All right. So let's bounce over. Eddie, what the hell have you been playing?
So for Xbox, I'm playing Far Cry 3. I'm almost at the end of it, so I'm about to wrap that up. It's mostly a replay for that game. Just I beat it on PS3, but never played the Xbox version. Playing it on Series X, and it's good. Uh, Started Quantum Break back up. Just in the mood to play a Remedy game. And that one I'm going to play on easy. I'm really starting the game from the beginning, and because I kind of missed those controls on how that game goes due to the fact of playing control with it. Uh, for Switch, I played After Image, which is like a Metroidvania kind of adventure game. Um, it has multiple endings. I believe I got four of them. I got like two or three more to go. It's a fun game. I think the problem that I have with it is that it's very directionless. Um, you got to do so many things that's not in the way the game wants you to progress and stuff. Like I was getting powers and
Well, then
abilities.
do you have to do them?
Yeah, you have to you in a certain way, yes, you have to do them because that's the only way that you can get to the main progression point and stuff. So
Well,
even when
then
you
it
get to
would seem that that's the way the game wants you to progress.
but the thing about it is they were just like, well, you have to get past 6 zones to get this one zone
Mhm.
to go through. But the game doesn't tell you that at all.
No, that's part of the function of a Metroidvania.
But the
They'll
thing
give you a general goal. It's up to you to figure out
but
what to do and where to go to get there.
when you get that general goal, then you're supposed to go to every other place. It's backwards. So
Hmm.
because what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to get to this place to meet this woman, um, who was head of my tribe, and when you meet her, you get the power to swim. But the thing about it is that is that there are areas that you can't touch water. And there's a whole big section where you cannot touch water at all. But you got to get through it in order to get to her.
I don't know. So far, it sounds like a Metroidvania to me.
If it's on Xbox too, and
I think
everything.
I haven't. I just haven't started it.
After Image, it's like
I
a
think so.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, give it a try, and I want to
Oh
hear
well.
your thoughts because the thing about it is that you think with a Metrovania you're direct to go to one section and then just jump around different sections like in a linear fashion, and none of this has any linear uh points to it. In fact, when you get to a zone, you don't even know you're into a new zone. You literally got to get to a certain point to read about it, and then that map will unload. The name of the map will unload, and it's still not there. You got to explore it all to get it. But it's just,
So
but
far, this all sounds like bog standard Metroidvania.
it when you play it and get through it, you'll be like, wait a minute, I'm in something that I'm not even supposed to be in, and I can't even like. You would
I'm
think.
definitely, I'm definitely interested enough to play it just to see if I am interpreting what you're saying correctly
Mm.
or not.
So, so what I'm
It's already on my list, but now it's moved up a few slots.
so when I got to this town area and they said, okay, I meet this person and they said, yeah, we know about her. She's way on the other side of the map, so you need to get there. Okay, I I want to be able to progress and
title off that screen.
And I thought that it was going to take me probably like maybe one or two zones to get there. But it doesn't tell you that you have 4 to 6 zones before you even get there that don't even play a part in the story and stuff. You just need to get through them to get to that person. And then once you get that power, you could go back and then do other zones that you're supposed to be doing. It's very weird. You might probably find it like, well, this is standard Metroidvania, but I'm like, don't. I kind of feel like don't give me a main goal, and I have to do 15,000 steps to even get to that main goal. Because then by the time I get to the main goal, I already did 80% of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there's a point that if you are able to even get to a certain point and defeat a certain boss, you get one of the game's ending, and it starts from the beginning,
Hmm.
unless you load. Like you don't even get to your main, you don't even get to your main objective. You can literally finish the game in 45 minutes.
Interesting.
So that's why I'm just like, this is very weird. And that's if you're like literally. I mean, some people did speed runs, and they on PC they kind of use tricks and stuff. But it was just like, so you mean from the beginning of the game, I don't even have to get to my main goal. I could just get an ending if I want to within 45 minutes if I'm that good.
Hmm.
Craziness.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you can technically get to the ending in The Witness in about 10.
But this is a ending. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think the witness. I don't know how many endings the witness has or anything. This game has about 8 endings to it.
I think The Witness has like 3 endings, and you can get to like the main correct air
Ending.
quotes there ending in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, this one you could.
But I mean, you
could
can do the
get to.
same thing with Mist.
Well, excuse me. Shoot, miss you could probably be there 15 minutes if you know what you're doing.
Well, exactly. All you got to do is, go into the fireplace, get the one page, and then hit the end of the game.
That's crazy. Yeah, but that's what I am. I'm about to jump back into Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown on Switch.
I found a
I
copy of that
just
at Walmart for $30.
Oh, nice. I
Mm-hmm.
know it was on sale that people were buying it up and everything. I
Yep.
just got my Coffee Talk Collector's Edition, the Coffee Talk 2.
Yeah.
I got um uh Bomber Cyberpunk, in the mail that was on sale for I think like $29 for physical. Dude, I went to Best Buy to go pick up one of my games. And man, I'm just like I'm going to visit the video game section. When I say depressing,
Oh yeah.
depressing. One
You
side
think
only
that's
have
depressing? Go look at Walmart's. They're clearancing out little by little and getting out a physical period.
I think a lot of, and I'm just like, don't tell me Target is going to be doing the same thing because even Target look like they're reducing games too. Like
Target selection has never been great in the first place, though.
that is true. And Myers, I looked on their
Oh,
website. I'm like,
Myers made their exit years ago.
well, I checked.
Myers doesn't even have a video game section anymore. You can get some accessories and shop cards and shit, but the games, they're gone.
So
They
it
have
may
been.
be your area. We have one up in Wisconsin in Kenosha. I just need to go there to go check it. I looked online to see if they had games. They had some games, but I don't know if those same games are being sold in stores.
Probably not. The
Okay.
stores got rid of their physical games years ago.
And it's just so weird. Like like Best Buy whole Nintendo section, it's just car. Their Xbox section.
Our Best Buy has a decent game section.
Okay. Their Xbox was on a little shelf along with their PS4. Their PS5 section had like 2 sections worth of games, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Because y'all was making money. Definitely off of Switch games, definitely off of new release. You know, people were doing the curbside pickups for games, so y'all were making money. Why is your department emptying? Because, like, I understand that you get like a lot of free shipping, and sometimes if there is a new game that you pre-order on Best Buy, and they're not selling it in the store, you'll get it on that same day. UPS, shoot. Best Buy ship games quicker than Amazon. And
they do.
That's a shame.
Except when Amazon fucks up and drops something before release day on rare occasion.
Shoot, that's if they even come on release day. And I guess you have to be a Prime member for that. But last but not least, because I want to keep y'all long, I beat Joe and Matt on NSO. I never got to beat it when it came out on the Super Nintendo. So I just took some time Saturday to beat it, and yeah, it's a arcade platformer because I didn't know that Joe and Mac was. Yeah, I didn't know that it was an arcade game. But I ended up.
Did you never watch Nick Arcade?
I did watch. Yeah, played Joe and Mac.
Dude, it was on Nick Arcade.
Right. I played Joe and Mac on Super Nintendo. I've never seen it in arcades. A lot of Data East games weren't coming into Illinois in my area for arcade games. So
you should have known it was an arcade game if you watched Nick Arcade, because they had Joe and Mac on Nick Arcade.
Well, the thing about it is, it was I think it was another name before it became Joe and Mac for arcade.
Not that I remember, but maybe. But yeah, anyways.
Data East, a lot of their releases were very iffy and very weird in Illinois. So, yeah. But that's pretty much what I'm playing. And then I'm just getting ready for Hellblade 2 and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door.
Oh, bring me that Hellblade. But anyways, all right. Well, we've hit that point where we should tell you about our awesome sponsor, Imaginary Authors, helping you up your scent game with fragrances for guys, gals, and non-binary pals, including their restock of their newest Languages of a Glacier. Go check it out. I saw Fresh Snowfall on the list of like notes of like scent notes, and I'm like, I don't even care what else the rest of it is. Just send it to me. I want it. That screams clean smell to me, and it is on its way finally. So soon as I have that, we'll be talking about it for a hot second in this little section here. Also, more than just cologne and perfume, check out the candles, the perfumed oils, and the bar soaps. The bar soaps are awesome. One of the best cleans I've ever gotten in my whole goddamn life. Ordered more of those too. And gotta say, for bar soap, pretty decent, like long lasting. I've gotten quite the lifespan out of a good bar soap from them. So value for your money for what it's worth. Bundle and save. Get a single or get a 3-pack for save a few bucks. But go check them out. Link in the show notes down below. Imaginary Authors. With all that said, so that we can get to this awesome interview with Creative Bytes Studios, let's jump to the break. And we're back with the third half of the show. This week we are diving down the warp pipe, and we're joined by special guests Dave Evans and Sean Jackson from Creative Bytes Studios, minds behind the exceptional Return to Grace, available on Xbox Series S and X and PlayStation 5 and on Game Pass. So if you've got Game Pass, you don't even have to pay anything extra for it. Just go play it. But for those that have already played it, or maybe this will entice you to go play it, we're going to be digging into some of the making of and what went into Return to Grace. So let's start with gentlemen. Sean, introduce yourself and what you do over at Creative, and then we'll toss it over to you, Dave.
Yeah, so I'm Sean Jackson. I'm the art director and kind of like in charge of all the visuals for Return to Grace. And I'll pass it over to you, Dave.
Yeah, I believe I'm the design director. I mostly do the right. We all kind of share the design.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I'm also the narrative, the writer for the game, which is also somewhat shared as well. But I'm the writer and designer. Yeah,
it's kind of like a little bit about us and kind of how we divvy up some of these tasks or roles per se. Is we all kind of wear like this creative hat, which is kind of like the Creative Bytes umbrella, that anybody who's part of the team has the avenue for creative outlets, right? So that's really important to kind of like the culture that everyone kind of shares, that that kind of like belonging as a team member and as like a creative source. And then we want to foster kind of like all these unique ideas, these unique perspectives that the team can offer.
And there's only one other person really.
Yes,
I was
Paul
actually just
Caprici.
going to ask, because I know you guys are here. I was curious, what's the total size of the team of the studio?
Yeah, so there's the 3 core people. It's Dave, Paul, and myself. Paul is in charge of everything like the technical design and system architecture, that kind of thing.
And production.
Okay.
And production, absolutely. Yeah, he's a great producer. And then, yeah, like we have like this trifecta right now, this trident, so to speak, of kind of like this creative narrative writing and comprehension. Then we have like the visuals, and then we have like the production and team culture side of things. So we really kind of like pride ourselves in our team, and the games that we build are going to be better because of it.
Yeah, and we have a lot of friends in the industry that give us feedback too. So
Yes.
that's a big part of you. Only 3 people. You kind of need a little bit more outside perspective, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounding board. So I'm gonna start in here because this was kind of the entry point to how this happened in the first place. I was browsing along through Game Pass and saw a visually striking title card for Return to Grace. Pulled up the trailer, watched the trailer, and my first thought was, this has remnants or thematics of Retro Studios 2D Metroid game that never came to be in terms of story. I was my first, I've been dying here. is this a piece of anything that had any influence or something that anyone knew anything about before going into this, or is this just one of those Swedish meatball happy coincidences in the universe things?
I'm pretty sure happy coincidence, unless someone secretly has influenced this and I didn't know about it. But
I'm just morbidly curious because there was a pitch from Retro about a Metroid game where Samus was dealing with a computer system that had like a split personality AI. And so when I saw the preview and what the story was about, I'm like, oh,
that's yeah. It's hard to know how original your ideas are, like in terms of how much it's covered. I mean, you always run into that trope, or not trope, but that common refrain of, well, Shakespeare's already done it. If there's a storyline, you think
or
you're
The Simpsons,
or the
Simpsons
version is
Futurama, yeah.
But yeah, it was more of a tool. The whole split personality thing. And the original story was a short story I'd written for another game, and then didn't do, and we just sort of hung on to it, and it changed a lot over the course of, gosh, how many years developed? It was a slow burn, I know, on this one. Was it?
Yeah, it's about like 3.5 years.
3.5 years, yeah.
Okay. So on that note, just knowing now roughly how long it took to build all this and bring it together, I know from the consumer side, there's often a lot of rhetoric about games only being, a few hours long instead of big, giant, sprawling 40 to 80 hour monstrosities. I'm one of those people. I sit on the other side of the fence. I have a lot more respect for games that have respect for my time and don't waste it. But for you guys, how did it feel spending 3 years to put something together that culminates in like a 2 to 5 hour experience for a finished product? What is there any sort of cognitive dissonance in that, going 3 years and this is it? Or is it, this is the opus, we have tuned this to perfection to be exactly what we wanted it to be?
Dave, maybe explain like the whole evening size games theory that we kind of like had. And
I mean, it comes from our own interest in what do we have time to play. You can tell from Beard, I am still in my 40s. I'm hanging in there. I think, are we all in our 40s? We're all in our 40s, right? Are you? Okay. Yes. So I wasn't sure about you.
I'm exactly 40.
Okay, perfect. Hey, this is the 1 year. We're going to be in the same decade. But anyway, we have kids and not a lot of time. So it is the things I look for in games, something I can play, or at least get like roguelikes are fairly popular for us because you can get in and get something out of a game very quickly. So it was a personal interest thing. The other thing was just the idea of having a nice contained narrative, because it was something we feel we're pretty good at. And then this sort of concept that I think other people are seeing value in is the idea that you play a game like you in one sitting, like you would watch a film, and it would cost about the same as owning a movie or whatever. So I don't remember who coined the evening size game, the term, but I remember I think I read it, or probably Paul read it in an article, I think, first, and we're like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Like, this is the way I want to play games. I think Journey was the first one that I played in, like, I think that's only 2 hours. And it was a great experience just to sit down and play something that quick. Firewatch, I think, is about 4 hours. So for some people, that's an evening, I guess, if you put the time aside. So yeah, I personally like this idea, and it seems to also have resonated with the Game Pass community. I kind of thought we'd get trounced, to be honest. Like, what's this game? It's only 2 hours. What are you giving us this crap or something? I sort of was bracing for that kind of reaction. And a lot of people are like, thanks. Hey, there's a game I can actually finish. Thank you. And Xbox, I think, looked pretty good on that for taking that chance. Because, I was kind of worried about that.
I will say, for someone that's not a huge gamer, that it was great that it was something that I could dig into and finish. I feel like if I feel like a game is just going to take forever, I'm less inclined to play a game like that. Like, no diss on this game, but I started Breath of the Wild. It is a fantastic game, but, you know, I was playing it for days on end, and then, like, I just had to stop because I'm just like, I want to finish it, but it takes a while to finish that game. And
it is massive, yeah.
Yeah, and once again, fabulous game. I'm not knocking it in any way, but if I can find a game that like I can play and knock out and finish the game, I tend to prefer that more than like super lengthy games.
Yeah, I know the beginning of about 100 games, and I know the ending of 4, maybe.
Right.
Yeah,
that's for a writer too. I think that's kind of I don't know. It's kind of self-defeating. And you're like, I have this great ending. No one will ever find it.
And I also find that like we play games like in parallel, like I'm playing Starfield right now, but it's like, do I play other games at the same time? Yeah, of course. I try and like fit in like other shorter games, and I'm looking for those kind of like almost like a reprieve from like the 90-hour epics. And it doesn't mean it's like I don't enjoy those or anything like that, but I think to summarize what Dave was saying, like we're parents, it's like sometimes we can't game every night, or we can't even come back to it that week. But it's like when I come back to a game, it's like I don't want to like relive that learning curve all the time. And I think that kind of like dovetails into the accessibility angles that we try to incorporate into our games as well. And yeah, it's like you said, it respects your time, and we don't want to like overstep our bounds, but give you a great experience.
You absolutely did.
Thank you,
Riker. You were the next one on board to polish off Return to Grace. You want to jump in? I know you and I have conversated on this since you finished it with thoughts.
Really, really quick, because this is going to tailor what I say about it and how I talk about it. Are we trying to avoid spoilers?
Oh no, we're in spoiler country.
Okay, it was not stated, and I know we
are absolutely in spoiler country.
Okay, and we were trying to encourage people to play it, and I'm just like,
oh yeah.
Or am I allowed?
I'm one of those weird people that spoilers oftentimes give me the seed of something to make me want to go play it and experience it in full and in context.
Okay.
If you're listening to this, go ahead.
I was going to say, just needed to know because it was not stated. And I'm just like, I need to make sure I'm tailoring what I say to like whatever direction we were going. So
yeah, I don't have a problem. I don't know. You cool with this, Sean? I don't mind.
I'm cool with spoilers, but I agree as long as it's stated and everyone's clear.
Spoiler country.
Right.
I know I've got questions about the end, and I know Wes did too.
So if you're listening to this and you haven't played it yet, it's on Game Pass. Download it. Take the 3 hours. Then unpause this and get right back.
Come back.
Listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just pause it. Come back.
So, Wes, I'll toss it to you then.
Wait. We skipped Riker.
Yeah. What about me?
Well, go for it.
I impeded with my question.
You gave me the head shake, so.
I mean, honestly, I really did appreciate just the fact that it was bite-sized. TMI here, but I'm a breastfeeding mom. My kid just turned 3 months, so I was able to pick up this game at about midnight in between her wake-ups, pause it. I think I only had to pause it once. And then I was able to finish it by about 4 a.m. and go to bed. It was fantastic.
Can we add that as a feature on the Steam page? I
was going to say, is that a testimony?
New parent friendly.
Parent friendly.
Yes. No, and I know me and Zoe have touched on it before, but we've talked about how there are a lot of games that they get, just different parts get super difficult, and we're not able to get past it either without looking it up or... I didn't have to do that. I will say, though, why did you guys make the beams so hard? The part where I had to balance on one foot, I barely got past that, okay? And then when I had to walk across the beams, I had to hand it over to my husband. I couldn't do it. That was hard.
Yeah, there's a... there's a cheat door in this. I think if you go 3 times, I think you can just get across. I think so.
Really?
There is. That's, by the way, that to me, that's the toughest thing to balance, is when you want to present a challenge for most people, and then you'll hit something, and you're not the first person, by the way, to say the beams were too hard. But we're not really looking to challenge people in a way that would ever lead to frustration. So we tried to figure, what are the number of times someone's willing to attempt this? And I think it's 3. So I think none of the, I can't remember how it works, but I think the beams are always options, and when it's not, you will get across. Yeah, there's some rule we hit, so no one would ever get stuck. It's impossible to get stuck.
Yeah,
but if you don't go the 3rd time, you may not know that. So
it actually came from like my son playtesting the game, because he was just like, he didn't understand like the concept of like counterbalancing kind of thing, and he was like 9 at the time or something like that, and he was playing like all these different types of games, but it's like that didn't resonate with him, and I was surprised at the time. But yeah, he couldn't get across, and I'm like, man, Dave, it's like, yeah, we got to make this easier for the people that can't do it. That's another thing we learned on Embers of Miram, actually, was that game, and the ask of the player was quite high. I don't know if any of you have heard of it or played it, but it's essentially like a side-scrolling platformer, 2.5D platformer, and then you split into 2 flying embers and reconnect into like a platforming creature. So the ask of that game was to go into the split mode and use the 2 analog sticks to independently control your characters and like essentially like collect things and do cool shapes and that sort of thing. But the ask of the player was just so high all the time, and that really gave us like this good idea of pacing. And when it came to the point when someone couldn't play your game because of what you were asking of the player, it was like, we should really like consider like the accessibility of our games, and not just being like, oh, we're just constantly asking. It's more, we're more giving at the same time. And when Dave is saying that, it's like, it's tough to balance between asking the player to do something and then giving at the same time, and that's giving that experience. It's really tricky. It's a really difficult balance, so to speak.
There's also a meta thing happening there too, where you do have the choice, and my apologies if there was some section that was like, that felt like it was the only choice, but the idea is because there's so much, that there's a theme about free will in the game, and there's also about, do people want challenge or not? What do they want out of their lives? And in this case, we're saying, what do you want out of this experience? And the idea that you could quit and go a different way when you're faced with a beam that might be established to be, it's a little bit tricky. Some people will do it again and again and again, and then succeed on the 3rd try, because we let them. Versus somebody who is like, no, I don't want to do it, or they don't like the puzzles and the doors, and they're just like, just tell me what the answer is. That does feed into the whole meaning of the ending. That it's that this experience you're playing is the same questions I think you ask about your life. Like, what's rewarding, what isn't. Something's just frustrating, and then why do it?
I was gonna comment on the same thing that Riker did. I did like that at the end of the game, it kind of like showed you kind of like what person you are. Like the, because you mentioned the door combinations, and so all but one door I opened myself, and then there was one where I don't know what the hell was going on, but I think I got it wrong twice, and I was like, fuck it. What I think his name is, Jack. I was like, Jack, just open the fucking door. I don't want to fucking do this. And then I think one of the combinations, if you go and shut down the machine, the like 1 over here, 2 over here, but the one before that, I got it. But the one where you get when you shut down the machine, same thing. I was like, Jack, tell me what the code is. Like, I'm trying to figure this out and I'm fucking stuck. So it was nice to kind of have that as a fallback, because I am a person that will try to do it myself. But like Riker said, we were talking about this, that like it would be nice if there, it presents that challenge and the people that want that challenge can do so. But the people that are like, hey, I could use a bit of help, having that option existing would be great. So I did love that about the game.
One thing that you do get, it because you were somewhat interested in attempting the puzzles, the character, oh gosh, I've forgotten the characters' names. We had like a under the hood character name. I think we called him Hal or something for a while.
Yeah.
But
oh, that sounds like Control.
Control?
Not Control. No, well, yeah. Well, actually, there's a lot of different Hal-esque sort of things. But
yeah,
no, it was
Jack?
Jack of all trades. Yeah, he's. Oh yeah, of course, it's Jack. Jack gives you the code and doesn't even let you do it on your own if you haven't been attempting, because he's like, oh right, you don't get any enjoyment out of this, so he doesn't let you even attempt the last code.
Yeah, it's cool.
If
You
you've
did
always
put
been
in
asking for hints.
Yeah, like those nuances in there. It's like depending on your actions. Like, yeah, you're right, Dave. It's like the game. There's so much stuff going on under the hood to give you like different remarks and different outcomes. It really
unseen choices.
Yeah. So and we were kind of like really we wanted to do that from the beginning, because we were talking about like how our game is going to be able to stream. And we didn't want like there to be like, we didn't want them to see the like all of like the nuances right away. It's like as they kind of like watched it more, it's like, oh, that was different than the last time I saw that game, or they're saying different things at the same spot. And so we really wanted to get like that variety in kind of like the decisions and the outcomes.
Well, now I want to go play it again and see what happens if I do things differently.
Yeah.
You guys are absolutely hitting on some stuff that's actually been on the list of deep dive topics for some future episodes, actually. So this is wonderful to kind of, I'm kind of just falling in love more here. But
yeah, sweet. Thanks.
Wes, I know you had a list. Pick one. What do you got there?
Okay, so I'm not going to impress you by saying I've played Embers of Miram. I am going to impress you by saying I've played The Veil.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I am impressed.
Thank you. You guys that was a collab with Flying Squirrel, right?
Yeah, I'm Falling Squirrel. It's just
yeah.
Yeah, and I basically hired, contracted Creative Bytes, who I'd already worked on a game at Embers of Miram with, to do it, and Sean helped us do the limited visuals we had in the game.
Yeah.
Not a big Sean project. And Paul Caprici did the programming for the final game. The last year of programming was with Paul.
Gotcha. So I don't know how much of this is a Paul question, how much can be answered by you guys, but there are a few things I've noticed. One is that like during combat, I know we kind of started this interview because Raul really liked Return to Grace. So sorry that I'm going slightly off topic with
yeah,
that,
and then I beat everybody over the head with, "Oh my God, play this!" And that was it.
but I noticed that like during combat, sometime like it would have been so easy for it to have just been like a quick time event, hit right stick forward at the right time, and boom, you got it or whatever. But I noticed that like if I was just the teensiest, tiniest little bit too slow, I would hit them and they would hit me at the same time.
Yeah.
Was that like was there like in the background like a model that you just couldn't see that was actually doing the attack, or is that like is that just kind of like there is a timer and like within this tiny little window you both take the damage?
No, you're just throwing collisions around. There'd be a really rudimentary version. You can see the game if you see the game with visuals. Like it's just a box attacking someone with another box. So there's no hard-coded timing window. It just happens. It's probably pretty consistent though. But yeah, that was all built for real underneath everything. Yeah.
I was just kind of impressed with like how much detail you didn't have to put in. Like you could have just straight up been like, all right, well, when they are moving, we'll just make it like a flat plane with just go to this point on here. But there were collisions. Like I made one wrong turn and I bumped into a little crate or a wall somewhere. And I just love little details like that. That's not just go straight forward and get where you can, even though it would have been so easy. You could have gotten away with it because you couldn't see anything in that game.
Yeah, and by the way, to bring it around to the great Return to Grace as well, I think that's part of what we kind of started this on the Veil and continuing with Grace, and our other projects will have that as well. Is that, you know, a pretty easy to follow through line. I don't really want people to be too. I don't want anyone to ever feel lost in the main story. I want them to always understand where the main story is, but then you get that feeling of agency or a specialness by what's in the periphery, these little things. And in Grace, it was some subtle choices you could make, but there were also little things around in Grace that you could find. And I mean, they're sort of considered Easter eggs, and obviously this is a thing that games have been doing for years, but there's something I'm realizing that less like having a lot of stuff that feels like it could be important. I find it's anxiety inducing. I don't know if anyone else has this feeling, like Fallout, or what am I doing? Where's my dad? Like Fallout 3, I was like, forgot I was looking for my dad about halfway through, and just started wandering around the wastelands. I love being lost in those spaces, but the games we make with a small team as well, it's we're picking up on a limitation, I guess, and trying to make that work. The evening size aspect, obviously, but also the idea of having a really tight world, which both the Veil and Return to Grace have. And I'm hoping no one got lost. Anyone get lost?
I got turned around a touch right about maybe 2/3 away through, but it was never bad. It never felt overwhelming. But some of that was also probably due to the fact that I was playing at about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and half falling asleep. But I'm like, no, wanna see what happens.
So
yeah. So coming back to Return to Grace and jumping to the end here, because holy, you pulled a number on me. The elevator ride up to the top and the conversation between Addie and Grace, the whole time I'm like, I had a pit in my stomach going, don't make me make this choice. Don't make me choose. Don't make me choose. I'm curious, was there any point where you're like, yeah, let's put a choice in two separate endings here? Or was it from the jump a case of, we're going to pull a Jodie Foster Contact ending, and there is no canon right answer. It's whatever the player wants.
Yeah, I think what's easy about what we did compared to Contact is that you are the player. It's just your choice. You don't need to consummate it in the form of seeing what happens. At least that was the idea. The choice is asked of the player. You should feel in the moment when Grace asks Addie, what would you choose? You should feel that it's speaking to you directly. So that to me is the easy answer for how I think that can work without being annoying. It's my feeling. And as an interesting side note, the earliest version of the game, we had contemplated allowing the player to choose and potentially tracking the answers, and in some meta idea, finding out who chose what, and allowing it to be something that people could track online. I don't know where that died, other than maybe that it didn't. I think I liked the ambiguous ending, and I'm like, well, what do we show when you make that choice? But that was definitely something that was on the table, is to show some outcome of the choice. But I definitely think it would undermine the idea that it's a personal question being asked you. And it's really not a question about how would you like society to continue on. It's how would you, as a person, like to envision the way the world works for you. I think that's probably why it was cleaner and maybe better. I don't know. But we thought of letting you make a choice and tracking the answers.
Oh, I was so glad. I'm like, no, don't do this to me. No. But that pit in my stomach and that whole ride up, knowing where that conversation was going, was gnarly. And I don't think a game has actually given me that that feeling in a very long time. So credit to you all for that.
That's cool. And I've heard other people have emotional reactions to the ending, and I know it was probably my intent or our intent, but it's hard to know. You get close to stuff, so you're like, does this work? Is this doing the things we might want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then you discover that people have reactions you aren't expecting. I don't know that I expected to be that emotional either, or that people would be fretting the ride up. That's a really cool thing. I'm glad you shared that with us because
Yeah, no, that is cool. And I think that like through line that you were talking about, Dave, it's like a little bit behind the curtain. It kind of like the iterations that we go through with like endings and like gameplay and it evolves so much. And really we just want it to like resonate with people. And like Dave is saying, it's like it's tough to know what's resonating with people other than putting it out to like our network, our friends. And it's like, what do you think about this? And then they kind of give you like the best feedback that they can. But I think our job is, like Dave said, that through line, is that narrative and comprehension. And then if you can comprehend like the story, it's like, then we've like hooked you already. We've started that hooking process, and now we can take you on this ride, and you kind of like commit to the story a little bit more.
So I've got to ask, and I have a suspicion I know the answer, and it's probably Dave. But which one of you jerks gut punched me with Jack's line, "I'm scared, will it hurt"?
All right.
I think that was.
Is that almost
Hal, or was
broke
that-
me?
Yeah. Well, there's actually two.
Yeah.
There's a Sean Jackson influence on this one for sure.
We are sharing
Hal
blame.
Hal was originally supposed to be kind of like a dumb frat boy Thor character, and I don't remember why we auditioned a kid or if it was by mistake.
Yeah.
But I remember
it was in your list, Dave.
It was in the list. It was like this thing, like, should we make him a kid? It would be because it'd be a little bit more like, you'd get more gut punches out of the ending and things like that. And I can't remember, but I think you were the first person to push us to do it, to say we should consider a kid. I think I might have been on the fence. I might even been leaning the adult actor, who also would have been pretty funny, I think.
Yeah.
But it didn't definitely. I added lines once I realized it was going to be a kid. Yeah. And we could do more, and we could do, and it also provided a nice contrast. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that I kind of liked. Okay, your game is not this, but it reminded me a lot of the movie Split.
Yes.
Yep.
And so,
good job.
Much like those personalities all contrasted, with each other. Like the fact that this man can do what he's doing, but one of his personalities is a fucking kid. Mm-hmm. And so, having this kid that was there, especially given the combination of like, I don't want to say emotions, but I guess,
personality traits. Personality traits.
Yeah. It was, it kind of fit that he was a kid. And it was, what was it? Control and empathy?
Yeah. Empathy. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And so I was just like, nah, sounds like a kid. These two things together. Was it? No, I think it was logic and empathy. But I don't remember. I don't remember what I'm
pretty sure it was control and empathy. The kids feel like they have this.
Oh yeah, because he had to control the thing to like turn the power.
He didn't know enough to know what he doesn't actually control.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then he lacks the logic, the wisdom, I guess, is the idea.
Also, anyone that like is raising a kid, I feel like those two things fit. Like they can be really sweet and nice, but like ultimately a lot of things go with whatever the kid wants. And so, like, kids kind of dictate what happens. Oh, I can't go out tonight because my kid is my kid is home. And so there is an era of an aura of like control with kids. But I did like the fact that one of them was a kid. And yeah, no, I agree with Raul that is it gonna hurt? And I'm like, oh my God. because I don't know what I'm doing. Like the whole ending, I'm just like, I hope this is right. I hope this is right. I hope this is right. I hope I made the right choice through the entire ending. And I'm like, oh my God, if I killed these personalities and this was not a good thing to do, and one of them being this kid, I am a horrible monster. Like halfway through me, getting Grace back, I was like, oh my God, what if I fucked up? I'm just like, should I have done this? Should I have listened to Control? Should I have just done what he said do? Like, oh my, like I was second guessing myself.
In a weird way, there's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And I was gonna say, at one point I looked, I was like, can I go back? Can I just be like, nah, I'm not doing this? But no, once you're in it, you're freaking in it. And at least like that's what I saw, that there was no way to go back. The thing is stuck. And so I'm just like, well, if this was the wrong choice, I'm on the path now.
Yeah, I thematically there shouldn't be a wrong choice unless you literally hit the wrong button and did something you did not want to do. But if you wanted to try it, and then it's the whole point of the exercise is that you did what you want to do. This is you in some way, and your desires to get the right answer too, or to do the right thing is probably. I'm hoping people get that too. When at the end I'm hoping it's cathartic and you don't feel too like you you don't have too many regrets about choices. I think part of it that helps it along is that it's a 2-hour game. So
yeah,
if you really felt bad, that hurt you, then you can go back and try a different route, I guess.
Oh, trust me, if I had gotten the other ending, I would have been like, nope, we're going back. We're doing the other thing. Because Raul told me that there was another ending, and I was just like, well, what the fuck does that look like? So we went, online, because there's a video of what the other ending is. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so happy I didn't do that, because I was just like, one, because I became very attached to the character, because, you're in... for not just like first person, but the way that it's done, I feel like, more than other first person games, like I became that person, that it wasn't just a perspective that I was looking through. Like the scene where she's sitting and breathing, I remember deep breathing with her, even though I know it was just the character and they were breathing, and I didn't have to. It was just like, okay, we're going to take a breath. And the fact that like I had to like control her breathing and releasing her breath, it just made me do it. So I felt very, like one with the main character. And so even if I know technically there are no wrong choices, like very much it became, oh, not is my character doing the right thing? It's just like, oh, fuck, what did I do? Like, am I, what do I do? Do I, especially when there's the whole thing where Control's like, yeah, throw your thing out the window. And I'm just like, they're not real people. They're, AI, but I'm just like, that seems harsh. And so, but I'm not thinking of it in a game anymore. I'm just like, this person is me, and like I'm going through this, and I'm sure that's what you guys meant to do, because like these are my choices. This is what I want to do. And so that deep level of involvement, I'm just like, I felt more attached to the choices I make versus like some of the RPG like things that I play, and they give you a selection of responses. I'm just like, sometimes I'm an asshole on purpose because I don't really fucking care and I just want to see what happens. Like I remember playing Fable and I just would do shit just to be an ass, just to see what would happen. Me too.
It's the English way.
Yeah, and so, but like this, I genuinely cared about my choices. And so, yeah, when I did the things, that I did, I was just like, well, is this the right choice? Like I was second guessing myself as a player, and I've never done that before with a video game. Like second guessed whatever my choice may have been.
What did you think of? Because this is now I'm doing some focus testing here. What did you guys think of having as much character provided for you as we did with Addie? Addie's character was voiced by an actor and had a backstory, and at least I spent a lot of time fretting over wanting a bit of empty shell so that you could imagine yourself. But there was this idea that Addie had a story or a grounding that I thought was useful, and so. Yeah, we did both, and from your perspective, it sounds like maybe it worked okay that she had a backstory.
It did. So I became part of like the character before like we found out her backstory, because she never initially would give a reason about like why she's here. It was always just I'm here to learn, and our society needs this, and she never really explained exactly why she was there personally. She does eventually, and I was just like, oh shit. And so that I think was like the one time there was like a slight, pullback between, this is a character who experienced these things and like myself, but it wasn't enough that I was just, completely pulled away from it. It just, because by that point I was just like, well, what the fuck happened to her? Why is she circling this goddamn question? I'm like, what is her deal? Because she also came out there by herself. It wasn't like, part of me is like, if she's out there to learn and like research, why didn't like she go with a team? It was just her. And so it definitely felt like more of a personal mission for her, and, her belief in Grace. And so after a while, I was just like, why the fuck is she out here? This is not a random adventure for her. This can't just be for science, I'm like, she is way too invested in this for it just to be science. And so getting that backstory a bit was nice. It did fill in that hole, but like I said, it didn't detach me from feeling like I was the character.
I will say real quick to your comment that you don't actually arrive alone, because you've got Alan with you, the ship's AI, which honestly I was a little sad that there was not more of Alan.
Agreed.
Alan was so wonderful and had that touch of like K2SO from Rogue One that I just loved. But that one brief little moment where Alan does break through about halfway, 2/3 of the way through the game did actually leave me with a seed of doubt, because I'm like, this has Control written all over it, but there's just enough in Mom's personality that I could see Mom being the one that's shutting Alan out.
Yeah. Okay. That's
interesting. Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious if that was something that was ever a thought that was there, because I'm like, my brain looks at it and goes, this is the obvious answer here.
That it wasn't
But
Control.
is somebody in the writer room gonna go for the spin?
No, the answer is I assume Control, but that there's something that I think is, I think that speculation is great. I mean, that's the stuff I love about games too, or just any media in general, is people's interpretations of this stuff. That's probably a better answer, to be honest. I think that's a great answer.
Like I said, Control is the obvious answer, but there's Mom has just enough of something in almost that overbearing Mom in her personality that left me with that little seed, that little shadow that goes, yeah, Control is the obvious answer, but I could see this being Mom.
Did you guys watch the post-credit scene with Alan?
Yes.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, Alan came in. Keeping Alan around became slightly problematic for all sorts of reasons, but that was something or at least I personally fretted over. I did. I think I wanted him, or at least to consider what could we do with him, because I liked him. And to be honest, I did not know if I'd like him until I heard the actor voice him. So that's probably the trickiest thing with a game, especially if you only have kind of one recording session with an actor. We did have pickups, but we didn't have a lot of time, and it was a pretty small budget. But with the Veil, because we had 5 years, I think it went back 4 or 5 times recording with different actors, we developed so much with the actors. I totally rewrote roles, expanded characters. And if we had had more time, and if the game had more runway, I think if the game was a little bit longer, I think I would have brought Alan back for sure. But I really didn't hit that until I we got the actor, and I'm like, oh man, this guy's great.
Mhm.
The character's working. I'm also not always sure a character's working until I hear it voiced by ironically a human, not an AI in this case. But
Right.
so yeah, no, I'm glad you liked him, and I felt the same way. And then I gave him a post credit sequence as
Riker,
consolation.
you look
Yeah, I
like
was
you
gonna say
something.
for time's sake, let's go around the circle one more. Riker, dear, you got anything else you want to toss in here?
Yeah. So I don't know what anybody's background here is, but I grew up watching VeggieTales. Okay. And I will say that Alan was really giving me Archibald asparagus
Hmm.
during like Larry Boy. And so there was like a familiarity to him that I really appreciated at the beginning of the game. And it really did help build that the way the game was built, I felt like the AIs, except for Control, were my friends. And I really appreciated that. And I feel like the way that like Zoe was talking about, the way that we realized that it was personal for Addie further into the game, that really did build really well for me. Because it wasn't just oh, great, this character has a whole background story that I have to understand in order to, get myself immersed into the game. So I really did appreciate how the game, I guess just the game overall, but I did want to ask. So when you have a game and you have choices, there's always a bad ending. What is the bad ending? Because for once I didn't get the bad ending first playthrough, and I just want to know what it is.
Oh,
Did
you
anyone get
didn't
it?
watch? You didn't YouTube the Control ending?
No, because I plan on going back through and playing it, but
Ah,
I
okay.
haven't.
You ready for me to ask a quick follow-up question? Dave and Sean,
Go
have you
for it.
guys been biting your tongues every time someone said both endings? Because there's actually 3.
There's 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 3?
What is the third?
It's a subtle.
I've missed
There's
this.
2 different Control endings.
I'm thinking
Oh.
the third ending is you don't toss the wristband, but you do hit the button.
That probably gives you the most likely Control ending, where he kills you essentially.
Yeah.
That's the one
Right.
most people get. If you listen to every single thing Control asks you to do, you will get a good Control ending where you are worthy of being his partner, and you become the new keeper in forever.
Okay.
I guess is the idea. So that's the good Control ending, I guess.
Okay.
It's the hardest ending to get because you
I
can't
respect the
do
hell out of that.
anything.
Mhm.
You can't do anything that's against his wishes. I might give you 1 strike. I can't remember, but it's
Yeah,
hard.
it's something like that.
Okay.
There's a grace period in there.
See what you did there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to. There was a couple of points that you guys you're touching on. I just wanted to say a lot of like the personality and things like that comes through like the character is being aware of your body. So it's like you always see your hands. There's very few games that really do like the level of interaction, like the tactile interaction that we do, and it was something that was like pretty important to us because it felt like you were the character. Like when you were hurting, it's like you're reaching for the sky and it's like, oh, and then when you're reluctant to push that button, there's like a pause in there, and it's trying to like mimic what the player is feeling, and that was something that Dave and I really tried to get it right in terms of the delivery of the performance. We always called it the performance. It's
Oh, you
'cause it's
nailed
like-
it.
Yeah, I
'cause it's
think
like,
most
the
games of this
acting
budget, there might not even be hands. Like,
Right,
it's like,
right.
No,
that was
and
quite an investment for a small.
that
Mhm.
that actually hits on something that one of our other cohorts that's not here today, Chris, does another podcast, 1H1D, and one of the things that he always looks at when they're doing first-person games is, can I see my feet? And I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, no, like it's there, and it looked like there was nearly a full body rendering
Yes.
that was there, and I was very, very impressed, which honestly has me sitting here thinking, would I like to, and would it work in VR?
Yeah, without
Because
becoming
this was
sick.
so wonderfully engrossing that I kind of want to have the ability to have the experience of shutting everything out and just kind of having that full range of tactile control of individual hands but yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be fucking phenomenal. It would definitely intensify the feeling I had for me, where like I felt like the character. VI would just take that, or VR. I put AI and VR together. Would just take that to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I mean, we did half the work, right, Sean? Like the idea that how tactile the actual interactions were. And they were a little bit gesture based on the controllers. I think we simplified them. I think at one point we had an idea, at least I wanted to do like way more with like, no, I wanted to really feel like you're twisting this thing or whatever. And then we're like, okay, this is hard and not fun. But yeah, the VR could have stepped in, and as long as you don't get sick walking around.
Yeah, I haven't honestly played a game that, like a VR game that has like free range motion, other than kind of where you teleport to different sections and then you're stationary. So I mean, there's lots of kind of like, will it translate?
The interactions for sure. I do feel
because the interactions, we always kept you stationary. It was rarely that you're even changing from interaction to interaction, but we did have that concept. But a lot of it's just like just canned animation and
let's do it.
Motion.
Let's do VR, Sean. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Bring me the Oculus port.
Yeah, really.
So, Zoe, I'll toss it to you next. What's the last one you want to throw in here?
So I get recommended a lot of games by my husband, and I love him, but we enjoy very different games. And sometimes when he gives me a recommendation, I'm just like, and you thought I would enjoy this? Like, I'm like, do you have you seen the games that I play? Like, sometimes I'm just like, but this one, he was like, he kept pushing. He was like, no, you need to play this. No, you need to play this. And I was like, fine. And I watched him play the beginning for a second, and I was just like, okay, I'm intrigued. But it was a phenomenal game. Like I said, I've never felt so invested in a story than I was, in there. Because not only was I trying to figure out, okay, what the fuck is, the character doing there, but like also just trying to figure out what happened. Why did it happen? And then, where did Grace go? And then learning like where Grace did go and the fact like what it caused because she went away. And I'm just like, it was fucking turmoil, I'm just like, in this age of where AI is becoming, more prominent, I'm just like, hopefully we don't get to that level. So it was great, just thinking wise, because very much connected to what we're seeing today, but also great level of perspective. I felt very involved. Once I started playing, I didn't stop till I finished it. So it definitely had me hooked from the get-go, and the design and the visuals, they were beautiful. So, props to you guys. It was, just...
Oh, visually gorgeous front to back. And Jesus, the architecture inside the spire was,
Like,
and a good part of the story is being told through the environment, too. I mean, that's...
Yeah. That is our characters, essentially. We
very
treated
much
it
so.
like characters. Even though we had a main character, but that was like you. So it's like, this is what you're interacting with.
The only thing that I'm like, God damn it, is the ending being so open-ended. As my husband will know, I'm someone that wants closure.
Mhm.
I'm just like, where does the story end? And so when it finished, like I looked at him and I'm like, that's it? Like what the fuck happens now? Like I need to know these things. Like, does it go well? Did because I did get so invested in my choices. I'm just like, did this turn out okay?
Did I help the universe or did I hurt it?
I think part of the thing, I think it's painful, but the open ending is really also asking the question. We're sitting at this threshold, I think, right now with AI, and we're asking ourselves, I think, this question: what do we do? Do we embrace this? Can we control it? Will it change us? What great things could we do with it? What horrible things could happen? I feel that's why I think it needed to be slightly, not too prescriptive. I'd feel uncomfortable having the answer, to be honest.
I understand it, like from a storytelling standpoint, like I get it, and I'm not knocking what you guys did. Me personally, I'm just like that's it. Also, I think I enjoyed it so much. I just wanted there to be more game, but all good things gotta end. So beautiful game, visually, story-wise, the gameplay was great. I don't have a single bad thing to say except goddamn that ending. I recently read a comic that did the same thing, and I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah, we both just finished reading Somna.
That happens to me with like any open-ended thing. I'm like, there's no closure.
Actually, that kind of raises, you just mentioned something that I would love to see, and I don't know if there's any possibility in the future, but I would love to see some more of Addie's story leading up to finally finding the Grace Spire, of Addie traipsing around the galaxy, told in maybe a more linear comic book fashion. Is that something that we might see?
Used to be a big thing we did in promotion and stuff. We haven't, I
don't even want I just kind of want to see more of Grace and Alan bumbling around trying to find the Grace Spire for years.
They would be a good what do you call that? A
buddy cop.
A buddy cop. Yeah, buddy comedy. Yep. I feel like you're right. I think we missed something here. I feel like we really missed something.
I don't think it's necessarily missed. I think the opportunity is still sitting there, but like I said, just given that we all know now with the game being out where it ends, it'd still be fun to see that story told, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in an interactive, nonlinear fashion to where something like, a comic series would be great for, or a visual novel series would be fabulous. Chance to showcase more of that beautiful art design, and more of the personality and character interaction between the two of them, I think would be an absolute delight. I'd turn up to the comic shop every month for a new issue.
Yeah, that's cool to hear, because it's like our unique twist on kind of like the visuals has always been like this hopeful like utopia in a sense, and then to put like a kind of a twist on like an adventure game to be like this hopeful tone. It's like I think it's like that right there sounds interesting. The other storyline that I've heard that people want to explore is like leading up to the riots of kind of like the barricade.
The fall.
Yeah.
Kind of like the fall from Grace kind of thing.
To explore the fall of Grace would be kind of awesome. Like, because Grace would call people. So, you're one of those people that gets called and then slowly shit starts happening, and going through that would be fun. But if the ending is up to me, Abby totally goes back and gets Alan and doesn't just leave him out there.
Oh, yeah. No,
and then Grace finds a way that she can still exist while also letting you interact with those personalities, because never being able to talk to Pal again made me so sad, because he is a kid. I'm just like, you're okay, little buddy. You're all right. So, if the ending and interpretation is up to me, that's totally what happens.
All right. Yeah.
Visitation. Oh.
All right.
One thought I had at the end of the game was, since there was a fall, okay, with any in sci-fi, typically any higher being that has as much control as Grace does, there are always people that are against that individual or thing. I wanted to know if, like, potentially after she turned Grace back on and got everything going again, if there were people that, like, saw her as a villain. Like, was it truly a good thing?
The idea if if Addie got the ending that we don't see, you're saying would people pass when the game ends? Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that I think it's sort of established that nobody really knows about Grace, so there would be no you would have to have something happen for them to start wondering if she was a villain or not. The idea of calling people back. So if she revived Grace, would people be ready for her? I think that's another big open-ended question because it's a personal choice, really. But it could create a huge amount of conflict in a world that's probably sitting as not dystopian. Addie's not leaving a dystopian world. She's leaving a world that's probably like ours. And then the question really is having something that's striving to be utopian, would that be good, or would that limit our enjoyment of life, having too many things handed to us and too many things done for us? Would we cease to be as human as we are in a way that would start making our lives not as interesting? So that's sort of the question, right? So would other people see that? I would imagine there'd be some at classic split down the middle, and there'd be these two factions that rise up, or something similar to probably American politics or something right now. So I don't know. That's a good question.
There's a lot of room in the game for more story, like we just touched on. There's definitely room for more story, like as a prequel. But then I also see that there's room for more story at the end of the game. And I just really hope that you guys do more with that, because this was a fantastic storyline and it made for a great playthrough.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't think of it as a starting point. Maybe it is a starting point.
Like there's and that's part of the beauty of how this was done, to me at least, is that there's a whole universe here that's worth exploring, but we're only getting this very tiny slice of it.
Yep.
That you've created. So, but with that, Wes, I'll toss it to you. You got a last one you want to toss in here?
I've got one or two. Would that be okay, or are we running a little too long for both?
It's entirely up to Sean and Dave.
Oh, I'm good. I'm cool.
All right, perfect.
Go for it.
So, this is one I had a big long list, but unfortunately, I'm having to share time with 4 other people, so we're trimming it down significantly.
But it's also a good thing, because it means we got a whole bunch of us playing this.
Yeah. One that wasn't even on my list. I legitimately did not know you could fail the balance beam sections until it might seem like I'm trying to be mean.
Dig.
But
I failed it. Come on, man. Only once. I failed it once.
So, like,
in all fairness, I'm going to assume that Riker had a baby in the other hand.
Yeah, right. But
no, I'm just bad.
You could have taken the out.
So
I'm honest.
But I'm actually a little interested, a little bit like the creation process behind the game. I recently started doing game dev just a little bit as a hobby. And when I say recent, I do mean recent. Don't even think I'm close to the level you guys are yet. But I'm just a little curious, like, during the playtest process, was there at any point you guys were like, oh yeah, people won't struggle with this. This should be easy enough. And then all of a sudden you're like, huh, they really are falling off these balance beams. Was there like any point similar to that where you guys were like, we thought we made it easy enough that anyone could go through this, but you decided to do that little, if it's forced, then the third time you'll get it guaranteed, or guarantee it's optional any other time, or something like that?
Your son's playthrough, Sean, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
that was it.
It was that moment where it's like, someone can fail these, and this is kind of a blocker right now. So, and it's like, philosophically didn't want to approach the game that way. So just accessibility is always kind of like the obvious answer, right?
Yeah, I think yeah. Sorry, this is a side note, but I think I think there is something. This game doesn't have a difficulty setting. Your path is supposed to be able to set that. It's part of the experience, the choice idea. But I mean, I think when it comes to stuff like that, philosophically, it's like in future games, and the Veil had this too. I'm all for difficulty settings. Let people play the game that they're looking for as much as you are able to give them that choice. So.
And one other, I think this will probably be a quick one. So like I noticed that as I was playing, there were some puzzles that were only in the first half, like the Simon Says or the pattern on the thing. So like make an X or make a square or something like that. But the binary puzzles were only in the second half. And some like the bounce beams, they were throughout the whole thing. The gyroscope was throughout the whole thing. Was there ever at any point like a conscious decision, put this puzzle to rest, we've done enough of it? Or like, we're actually thinking this one's successful, keep this one in the game and have it keep going, or introduce one new thing here now that we've put these to rest? I'm just kind of wondering like where the decision process came from for stopping things like that, starting these new ones in the second half.
Honestly, unless Sean might have some thoughts, I don't know how conscious that specific choice was, because it does sound very deliberate the way you've said it. It's like, yeah, they must have had a reason. And with the idea of a puzzle overstaying its welcome. So I think that's part of it. I think we get a little bit of humor out of those opening puzzles. And I had an idea that that one of the guys, the what do you call it? It would have been Logic, I guess, would have said it's something more subjective, like it's happy face. And you're like, a happy face? So you try all these different, like there was something I think we wanted to try, at least I wanted to try, which became impractical. And the other side of it is the narrative started taking over the design. I think there's a certain point at which we really started, it was a little bit more midway through the development process. It was pretty mechanics heavy. We had mechanics we abandoned that just weren't resonating or getting picked up with focus testing. And we started realizing that this very simple interactions that support the narrative were the ones that were best for the game. So it probably had more to do with the introduction of characters that you needed to interact with at the time, like Jack. So and the Logic kind of abandoning you in a period of time put those puzzles aside. So it became more organic, the choice. It's like, what is the right puzzle for this moment because of where the characters are? But I think with more, if we had for some crazy reason been told you have to develop this for another year, I think we would have spent more time really thinking about the sort of flow of puzzle play, and maybe getting an understanding of, you know, what are people really liking puzzle wise, and maybe have more of those experiences. But as far as I know, we didn't blow it completely, but I don't remember it being terribly conscious how we did that.
So not so much like a conscious decision, this stops here, but more so in the end, you just naturally ran out of moments that it fit with.
Yep, and they were very narrative driven. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I think it's like a lot of it was pacing with us. It's like we iterated a lot on like the idea of what are you doing at the time, and creating moments that actually like had meaning, and like some certain moments was about like the choice, certain moments was about like the interaction that you're interfacing with, and so it was, if you kind of like look at our games, it's like we spend a lot of time and iteration on pacing them, and then sometimes it's like with a puzzle, it might be a mechanism to identify that pacing, or it might just be like it's maybe overstayed its welcome. Let's not ask. It's kind of the mechanism worked. It's like let's move on and try and surprise them in other ways.
I think I'm following. So like part of the reason the gyroscope stayed around was the wish capsules narratively made sense for them to be throughout the whole story.
That's right.
But you know, you don't need logic, stonewalling you from getting to the rest of the story past the first half.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's probably the reason. I think it's something to do with it just it ran out of use contextually, I think.
Yeah, contextually, exactly.
Right.
So I'll round out with the last couple of quickies here. One, was there anything that ended up on the cutting room floor and not in the final game that just broke your heart that got left behind?
It didn't break my heart, but I had this crazy idea that the that room with the all the trees in it where you first meet and you make the choice, you look at stuff. I wanted it to be completely frozen like Dr. Zhivago. I don't know if you know the scene Dr. Zhivago where everything's like crystallized in ice and it's completely monochromatic. And then when you heat up the room, it becomes green. And technically that was just such a bad idea.
It's like we
I
had
can still
ways
appreciate
to
the
do it.
mental image now.
Yeah, we had ways to do it. It was just a matter of like, as we always say, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and eventually
it's like,
it became
can we
such a
write around it for now? And then it's like if it bubbles up, it's like, yeah, we can tackle it, but it just never bubbled up. Yeah, that was one of those things I remember.
It wasn't heartbreak, so let me just put it that way. But it was the one thing that I even thought of that we didn't do. And honestly, I have to admit, I was really surprised with this is me speaking specifically to Paul and Sean, like how many of the things that we did get in the end. I was prepared to not have a lot of things I wanted not in this game because it never bubbled up. But at the end of the day, especially with Game Pass, I think we had more time to sort of like, we added lightning to the storm and stuff and kind of past the first launch. Is that right? Did we have lightning in the opening storm in
on the
PC
Steam version, like the PC launch?
Yeah, Steam launch.
No, I don't think we did.
Yeah, so even that extra time you had with the thing, I think really added some atmospheric stuff, but they were all like just little extras that there's probably, I don't think there was anything. There's not a really good story of something we really had to lose.
No, I think it more evolved, if anything. Like there were certain areas, like the Keeper's Quarters was always kind of there, but like how you got there was very different. Like from like our early demos and things like that. So it's not that like things get put on the chopping block. It's almost like we're constantly evaluating, like, is this our best kick at the can? Is this the best moment that it could be? And it's like, at least you'll always be somewhere and you'll always be ready to show something. It's like what we do with our demos, but yeah, things just keep evolving. And then, you kind of like, this is your best foot forward today. So, yeah.
Okay. And I'll leave this with the last and the obvious one. What's on the horizon for you guys for Creative Bytes? Where do you want to go next? Is there something cooking?
Oh, there's always something cooking. Yeah, we recently got like funding and things like that for like our next game. So we are currently in production on another title. It's kind of like I said, with things evolving, even our games evolve. They go into this, we're constantly learning as game developers go. We essentially are building off of our last game, like even coming from Embers of Miram to The Veil to Return to Grace and then to whatever comes next. It's going to be in the same vein as like creating these unique adventures. And that's what we're really striving for in terms of our goals.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I'll say is I think environments are going to be really important. We're an amazing environmental artist that builds this stuff. So I think that's there's elements of The Veil in what's coming up, but it's The Veil had no visuals.
Yeah.
So now it's a chance to add some visuals to a world more like that. So we're definitely moving to a different world, but it's I would like to think we'll expect similar, I don't know, unique feel to this places. So we'll see where it goes. It's a ways off, right?
Yeah, it's still a ways off. We're still
Yeah.
pretty early, but yeah, we are always thinking about like that moment-to-moment gameplay, keeping it accessible, casting a wide net on who we want as like our target audience. But yeah, I think it's something that we did well with Return to Grace, and our hypothesis was correct. It's like we can do this, and I think we want to keep that momentum going with our follow-up games. It's we're getting everyone from like the bro gamer to my wife, who doesn't play video games, but she played Return to Grace, and she's like, "This is awesome." It's like I felt for these characters, and you guys made something that was like almost overdone. Like sci-fi is like an overdone genre, but you guys managed to kind of like put this twist on it that was like really unique and kept me hooked, I guess. So we want to carry those kinds of footsteps forward into our next projects, and hopefully it's like we'll get like the audience and the support that we got from Return to Grace on the next ones.
Okay. It almost slipped me, but I've got to ask, because again, this is Return to Grace has had me thinking about some topics that are going to come up in future episodes, but Return to Grace to me very much pushes right up against the line of walking simulator into point and click territory, but it never, at least to me, fully felt like it crossed that line. Where does it sit for you guys? What do you think? Does it sit in this camp of walking sim, or does it push over into point and click, or does it start to carve out almost a new little slice right in between?
Yeah, I don't know that there's an intentional slice. I think we probably wanted just slightly more fulfilling interactions than maybe a very traditional walking sim. So it was like sort of like a slight evolution. So I guess that to that token, that was intentional. But I got comfortable with the walking sim. We never saw it as the word pejorative when it's bad. Anyway, whatever the word is when something's not, people don't love it and they use a term, walking sim, it's a negative connotation. I was sort of embraced it and said, no, there's people like this game, these types of games, and let's just make a really good game like that. I don't know, did you feel we were pretty close to walking sim, Sean, from the get-go?
I know that term was like thrown around a few times, and it's kind of like we tried to play to our strengths, and certainly like a walking sim genre game would play to our strengths. But it again kind of like evolved into like a pacing progression. It's like, well, we don't want people to be bored, and walking sims can have this negative connotation, like Dave's saying, that it's like there's not as much gameplay, it could be boring, and yeah, I think for people who have played like our past games, like even Embers and Miram, it's like it's not a boring game. It's paced very intentionally, and we wanted Return to Grace to have that same sort of pacing.
Yeah, I think ultimately the mechanics of having an interaction, if we had, what would you do with more time? Probably be try to not frustrate people with the interactions we choose. Probably move away from walking simulator a little bit in having more interactions, but there's so much risk with adding those interactions, because if you don't get enough focus testing and feedback, then you have people going, why'd you make the beam so hard and stuff. Like it's going to happen, and we're going to have, but that's what you do, I think, with more time. So it's, I think we did strive to just push it past walking sim. Yeah.
Okay. Riker, I know, had one last one for Sean specifically, real quick, and then we'll close this out.
Yeah, do you always have your kid test your games? Because that seems to be working for you, and I just want to know, because it worked for me.
Yeah, it's I I have 2 young kids. They're 7 and 10 right now, and a boy and a girl. And yeah, my son, he's playing games and all sorts of like complicated games. So he sees a lot of things, and even from like an art direction, like this new game that we have has birds in it, and I was doing kind of like this flocking kind of birds and bats using like. And it's all just smoke and mirrors, right? But then I'd call my daughter over because it's like she loves to color these things and like color on my computer and all this stuff. I'm like, does this look like birds to you? And she's like, no, and then runs away. And I'm like, I've got work to
Delete.
do.
Well, you know
Or
she's
she'd be
honest.
like, or she'd be like, yeah, those look really cute or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I know I have something here. So I'm kind of using them as like this gut reaction sounding board. And I think with kids, it's like they have zero filter and they will tell you what they think. And it's just like, yeah, that could be a tool for us, right? We want that unfiltered feedback, right?
Yeah. Well, let's close this up real quick. Dave, Sean, where can everybody find you guys?
Yeah, so you can follow us on all our socials. You can find us on creativebytestudios.com. And we're at Bytes Studios on X, is it called now? Never know.
If Elon can dead name his children, we can dead name his website. It's Twitter.
It's Twitter, yeah. I'm kind of in the Twitter camp, but you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and just even contact at creativebytestudios.com. I run that, so you can just reach out to us at any point.
Awesome. Dave?
Oh, I'm same.
Okay.
if you reach
fair
out to
shake
me,
here.
I'll
so...
get Dave. I'll message Dave for you.
Nothing to add.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you to both Sean and Dave for coming and hanging out with us this week and making this happen. It was greatly appreciated. I had a tremendous time with you guys. Thank you to my friends for coming and hanging out with me this week. Thank you to everybody that tuned in and listened. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you get new episodes in your feed every week. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Imaginary Authors. Link to them and their good stuff in the show notes down below. And that's it. You've been listening to the World 1-1 podcast, powered by the World 1-1 Podcast Network. Press start to engage your mind. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Peace. All right, hold up. We can't not ask for you guys, for Sean and Dave. Was there a canon ending in your heads of what Addie decided to do when posed the question by Grace? What's the ending that lives in your head canonically?
She